Chapter 120, the finale, together at last. When Young-sik asked Riel why they won't be seeing Akio anymore, Riel explained to her son that Akio had a new family and would stop seeing them. Young-sik cried profusely that day, missing Akio so much. Meanwhile, at the construction site, Akio came to inspect the scaffoldings used to support the work crew in the construction. He was amid his personal sadness and work, and Albert saw Akio climbing the scaffolds and became worried and nervous. "What's the matter with him?" "Sir, don't climb further. The stagings are not yet ready for the support," Albert yelled in apprehension. Akio was walking on the planks, but his mind was on Riel. His vision of Riel as she spoke with him during their breakfast. Riel was adamant and stern in her last words, telling him, "This day is your last to step in this house." Mr. Hinode. Akio could not accept Riel's decision to drive him away from them. Riel is the only woman for him since day one, the first time they met, and even until she married Hyunki. He treasured their friendship so much, and was patiently waiting, while Riel went into hiding after her giving birth. It was so heartbreaking to lose Riel and Young-sik. For him, Young-sik was like a son to him. He was missing the little tyke too much, making his heart ache even more. He was thinking of how to get them back, and live like the good old days. They were so happy back then, like a picture-perfect family. Baby tears shed from his eyes, making his vision blurry, and his hearing got impaired, having not heard Albert's shout of warning. As Akio made another step, unmindful of Albert's warning, the planks shook. Akio lost his balance, and fell above the ground from the scaffolding as they shook. The construction workers and the medics sprinted to help him. They saw and assessed that his head was bleeding and incurred bruises on his face and arms. Nolan and Jason looked so pale and frightened. They rushed him to his vehicle and sped off to the hospital. He was immediately brought to the emergency room. "Do you think that was serious?" Jason asked, as he observed the doctor checking on him. "We will have to run some tests on his injuries." The doctor instructed the nurse to clean and treat Akio's wounds at the emergency room. Then Nolan called Dwayne on his mobile phone, praying that Akio's injuries weren't serious. "What a handsome face, only to be bruised. Good for you. Your fall was not that bad." Akio realized that the nurse seemed to make a pass at him. Akio remarked mischievously, "If I am not mistaken, you're flirting with me. And if I am not yet taken, your flirting won't get wasted." The nurse was embarrassed. "Oh? Are you married?" I'm sorry, sir." Meanwhile, Nolan was able to contact Dwayne. "Hey, Dwayne, could you pass me Miss Reeler's number, please? It is urgent." Then Nolan received the text. He called Riel. Riel and Young-sik were still talking about Akio when her mobile phone rang. She saw on her phone screen an unknown number, so she didn't answer, thinking it was a wrong number. Then it rang again, and to stop the caller, she answered it. "Hello," Riel replied. "Miss Riel? This is Nolan. Remember me?" he asked. "Why? Of course, Nolan. What is this call about?" She was curious. "Miss, don't panic, but you must come to the hospital right now." She got shocked. "Why? What is the problem?" Riel felt nervous. Sir Akio fell from the scaffolding 5 feet from the ground, and he was rushed to the emergency room. "He's in a grave condition." Riel was dreadful. "Oh, my God." "Yes, we'll be there to see him. I'll call for a cab now, and please text me the hospital." She hurriedly grabbed Young-sik and her purse. "Akio's entourage is on their way to get you, ma'am. Please brace yourself," Nolan said. Riel with Young-sik rushed to the elevator and felt distressed. She was almost in tears, and while Young-sik was in Reeler's arms, he saw tears falling from his mother's cheeks. He could feel his mom's mixed emotions and embraced her tight. "Mommy, I love you. Please don't cry." He hugged his mom. "Oh my baby, we must reach the hospital quickly to see your papa." When they reached the hospital lobby, Nolan and Jason were there to meet her. "Miss Riel, you can leave Young-sik with us, because the nurses won't allow your son to enter the emergency room," Jason said. Riel was hesitant, and the little boy was about to cry. "Don't worry about Young-sik, ma'am. You must go to Sir Akio now." Riel dashed to the nurse station and asked where Akio Hinode was, and they pointed her to the emergency room. Riel hastily ran and turned every curtain, looking for Akio. Then she saw the nurses and a doctor trying to revive a bloodied, heavily injured patient, and a respirator was attached to him. Tears of anguish streamed down Reeler's face, praying silently for Akio. She stood there, her hands clasped in prayer, weeping. "Oh, God. Don't let him leave me, Lord. Please. Riel was observing the patient's condition when a nurse approached her. Ma'am, are you a relative? Please stand aside, away from the patient's bed, because you're blocking our way. Give us a chance to work on him. His life is hanging, but we will do our best to save the patient. Please leave this room. We will call you when he is okay. Riel left the emergency room and stood outside, leaning by the wall while peeping behind a small leeway of the curtain. She covered her face in meditation. As Riel was weeping and praying silently, Akio passed by her. He looked at her, quickly recognized Riel, and wondered why she was tearfully standing near the emergency room. Akio stood beside her and watched her in silence with a puzzling look. Akio asked Riel, "Who was that man you're praying for?" Riel responded without looking at Akio, and said, "He was my best friend and the man I loved so dearly." Akio was amazed, then he smiled. Riel turned to him, thinking he was a doctor, and said, "Please save him, Doc." Tor. Riel was shocked. Before Riel stood Akio. She glanced at the man on the bed, who was fighting for his life, and at Akio standing before her. Akio smiled pleasantly at Riel while she stammered, I thought that man." Akio interrupted. "Was me? Your best friend and the man you love so dearly." Riel looked at him surprisingly, then said, "Oh, stop it. Just kiss me." Riel held his face and pressed her lips to his, and Akio reciprocated, kissing excitedly, then passionately. One day you will kiss a man you could breathe without, and find that breath is of little consequence. Jason and Nolan were curious about what was happening in the emergency room, wondering what's taking them so long. The two men decided to go to the emergency room with Young Sik when they saw the lovers kissing. Young Sik was delighted to see his papa, that he ran swiftly to them, shouting, "Papa! Mommy!" Both smiled and turned to Young Sik, and Akio was glad and carried Young Sik into his arms. "Oh, thank God. My family is back," embracing Riel and Young Sik as they left the hospital. At last, they're back together again. Nolan and Jason were exuberant to have succeeded in bringing Akio and Riel into each other's arms, for theirs is a love that knows no boundaries. Jason was grateful at the outcome of Nolan's wise idea of bringing them back together. Everything was perfect. A quotation from Lawrence Hope once said, "When love comes, his wings are swift. His ways are full of quick surprise. 'Tis well for those who have the gift to seize him even as he flies." The end. Hope you enjoyed my novel. Thank you for your tremendous support in viewing my Windows of the Heart audio series on my YouTube and TikTok channels. I humbly request your ongoing encouragement of my literary works. I'm thrilled to inform you that a fresh collection will soon be accessible on my YouTube and TikTok channels. Stay tuned for my upcoming novel, entitled, "Where is Monica?" Thank you.